somebody said that they were going to do the inspiration in her place.
Thank you.
But nobody gives me their name when they send me a text message.
I did.
Was it you? I didn't recognize your number, Jeannie. Sorry. Would you please do the inspiration for us?
I will. And in recognition of Tim's request this year that we do things to honor our veterans, this week, as we hopefully know, is the 75th anniversary of D-Day. 15 years ago, Hank and I were in Normandy on Omaha Beach for the 60th anniversary. And in our group were 10 men from Colorado who were part of this contingent Allied forces on Normandy. So I went looking up. President Roosevelt spoke on June 6th to the nation, and he explained that prior to that, no one knew what was going on. But last night, when I spoke to you about the fall of Rome, he said, I knew at that moment that troops of the United States and our allies were crossing the channel in another and greater operation. It has come to pass so far with great success. So in his address, he also offered this prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic and our civilization and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard, for the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again, and we know that by your grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tired by night and by day, without rest until the victory is won. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. For these men are lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people. They yearn but for the end of battle, for then they return to the haven of their home. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, your heroic servants, into thy kingdom. Give us strength too. Strengthen in our daily tasks to redouble the contributions we make in the physical and the material support of our armed forces. And let our hearts be stout to wait out the long travail, to bear sorrows that may come, to impart our courage unto our sons, whoever they may be. And, O Lord, give us faith in thee, in our sons, faith in each other, faith in our untried crusade. Let not the keenness of our spirit ever be dulled. Let not the impacts of temporary events, of temporal matters, of but fleeting moments, let not these deter us in our unconquerable purpose. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Help us to conquer the apostles of greed and racial arrogancies. Lead us to the saving of our country and with our sister nations into a world, unity that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all of men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest soul. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Jeannie. Mr. Wexler, would you please lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Karen Fleck, do you have a Rotary business minute or a Rotary minute for us today?
As you all know, Rotary International holds an annual convention, and for 2019, it is occurring in Hamburg, Germany. The 110th annual convention officially started on Saturday, and it runs through tomorrow. Rotarians from 170 countries, 24,000 Rotarians are meeting in Hamburg for this meeting. Topics being covered include conversations on pressing world issues such as polio eradication, of course, pollution, refugee migration, disease prevention, and literacy. They're also talking about things like fellowship, integrity, diversity, and service. So next year's convention is going to be held in Honolulu, Hawaii on June 6th through the 10th. So put that on your calendars. And in case you needed an extra reason to go, Honolulu is one of the safest cities in the world. You can register now. I think you've probably seen your emails coming through. You can register now for next year's convention, and if you do so by tomorrow, it will cost $395. However, it goes up to $450 after Wednesday and through the end of 2019, and then the price increases in 2020. So Rotary International wants us to promote next year's convention on our website to promote attendance at that meeting. So let's all go to Hawaii in 2020.
Thanks, Karen. All right, we have no business minute today. Alan and John Peterson, thanks for doing the setup for us today. Kent, thanks for being here to greet. Actually, John Bellum wore the badge for a little while, and then he decided to, yeah, he just is helping a brother out. All right, we do have a visiting Rotarian, Dee Lay from Littleton. Dee, just wave. You'll be hearing from Dee and her guest, Rose Danaher, on it's a program it's a maternity type program for Stop the Hemorrhaging, and it's a project out of Littleton. We do have another guest, Grant Barrett, a guest of Deborah Jessup. Grant, you want to stand up? Just tell us a little bit about yourself? A little bit. I was
born in America. So my name is Grant Barrett. Oh, sorry. My name is Grant Barrett. I was a Rotarian with Aurora Gateway for about 17 years, I believe. Left a few years ago. Recently sold my business that I'd run for 20 years, and just kind of looking to get back involved and figure out what I want to do when I grow up. So, anyway.
Well, welcome. If you want to grow up, don't join this club. But if you want to have fun, you join this club. And I do see one other guest that I'm unaware of back here. Are you someone's guest?
My name's Austin Garcia. I'm visiting from the DTC Club.
Uh-huh. Okay. Just here visiting?
Yeah, in the area. I kind of visited another club. I haven't visited another club this far.
All right.
So we'll get this one. Came over right.
Well, very good. Well, welcome. Okay, birthdays. Now, there's a lot of birthdays this month.
Yeah.
Phil Chaporis, going to be 39 again. Paul Fritzler. Tom Gross on the 7th. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow? Friday? Yeah, Friday. Dan O'Seeley. That's a spouse. And we have Samurai is Thursday. Cheryl Mayberry on the 21st. Barb Medina, Thursday. And John Peterson on the 22nd. So a lot of June babies here. And then wedding anniversaries, Don and Peggy Shattuck on the 24th. And Dave Walcher and his wife, 6/11. So if you see Dave, wish him a happy anniversary. All right, we'll get into some club business here. Just a reminder, Friday is our turn in the tank with the Ronald McDonald House. And the millennials are leading this one up. They do need our help. So, John, everything's online for that?
It's well signed up for. There's just one person needed to provide a meat entree along with Tom Gross, and I assume it's your son? Yeah. So just one more person is needed to supply something, but then you can also go to it to help serve. So you guys did a good job. We just need one more.
All right, perfect. And then don't forget that the 14th, which is Friday next week, is our first beer fundraising event, and that's the summer kickoff at Centennial Center Park. John, do you know how the sign-ups are going for that?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
That's
I'll look.
okay. Yes, you do? Okay.
I talked with Sarah last night. We still can use some volunteers. We're about 3, maybe 2 people, maybe 3 shy. So if you can come at all for that. We're still missing the infamous wristbands. And she's going to go ahead and go to Sam's Club and get the balance of the cups that we need. Gordon and I are going to go over and check the storage unit again after this meeting and taste some of the margarita mix. Go figure. We weren't sure it was still good from last year. So she said to taste it first. There's 4 jugs of that right now. And she figured that we'd need about 10 of those. So I think we'll be okay. She and I talked back and forth a little bit. We're concerned that we might have too much beer. And I know we had that. I understand. But so she was going to talk with the people again and just see really how much we would need, since hasn't been really all that hot yet. I don't know what we'll end up with, but if a couple more people could sign up, that'd be great.
Okay, perfect. So remember, that's Friday night, and it should be a great event. They have pretty good bands that are going to be performing that night. And then Samantha, would you like to talk about a couple things?
Good morning, fellow Rotarians. So, June is full of lots of stuff, and on the 19th, we have our club visioning. It's going to be at the Semswa office. I would say what that means, but I forgot. Southeast, so Metro, East Water. Thank you, Randy. He's in the know. So the address is on your bulletin. I will also be sending out the survey again, because apparently some people think that they have not received it. I sent it 2 weeks ago, so I will resend it. So it takes literally 5 minutes. So it's very simple, so please do that survey. And I will send all the rest of the information as well as a call out for RSVPs, so that way I know what kind of food we need to be bringing. Also, on June 25th, if you look at your bulletin, we are having our last off-site for this Rotary year at the Cobell Library. So that's our off-site meeting. And apparently it's not Deb and Gordon who's going to be speaking on that date. I got all those mixed up, but please come. I will also have us sign up for that as well, so we know about breakfast. So if you have any questions on either of those things, please let me know.
Okay, speaking of sign-up sheets, there's a sign-up sheet on our table that needs to go around. I don't think our guests need to sign up for our club duties. Okay.
Tim,
Mr.
checking on the beer sales, we need one more cashier and 2 more ID checkers to sign up. So we still need some people for that.
Does the cashier have to have the credit card processing?
We'll get that all worked out. That'd be no
Okay.
problem.
All right. Okay.
Oh, and 2 more for setup. That's the big thing.
Okay.
Okay, at 4:15 for setup.
Sounds good.
Tim,
Yes.
the programs, I did get them all posted yesterday, but apparently it was after Samantha looked at it. But next week, classification talks will be done by Lori Overton and Scott DeWitt. And on June 18th will be Deborah Jessup and Gordon Close talking about their guitars for the troops. And on July 26th, is Deanne French. We've been working on this one for a year. Randy Ernst asked that we bring, oh, Tim just said 26th. Anyhow, she is with the Gaylord Rockies Resort and is going to come in, and so she will be at the library speaking to us at that time.
Thanks for straightening that out.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Jeannie. All right, Mr. Hanna, would you like to talk to us about garments?
Okay, this is it. I'm not kidding. This is your last and final opportunity to order a beautiful Rotary shirt in royal blue. I thought they were black. No. Sorry, they're all blue. We decided to make it simple. Also, I'm going to pass this around one more time, and for those of you who weren't here last week, the way you're going to pay is that John Peterson is going to front all the money. Barb will repay him, and then Barb will bill you. And a final note is I'm told that the shirts run a little on the small side, so you might order one a size larger than normal. So I'm going to pass this around and have at it. Oh, and the cost is $29.
Okay, did I miss anybody as far as club business? I don't think so, but going once, going twice, so, okay. Travel gifts. Do we have any travel gifts? Yes, please.
How many people in here like Stephen King novels? How many people like The Shining? We were in Estes Park this last weekend. Estes Park Brewery has a seasonal beer called The Shining with room number 217 on the front of it. So here is a 6-pack of Shining beer, different than wine that we normally have.
Yeah, and those are actually full. Those don't reflect what you had this morning on your table. Yes, ma'am.
I really didn't go on vacation. Oh, microphone. Sorry. I didn't really go on vacation. I've been taking care of my sister who had hip surgery. But I did go to the hospital gift shop. And I mean, talk about determined to get a travel gift. So I have this fabulous little purse. It is leather and a great kind of modern design, and will be a hot item at come the holiday party.
Any other travel gifts?
Okay. It's not really a travel gift. I was in Shanghai, and the day that I arrived, and I found out that they had a dinner meeting, weekly dinner meeting. So that's the banner that I didn't bring ours, but
Beautiful.
That's the one
Bring
that
it
I
up
took
here and
back.
show it to everybody.
All right.
And then give it to John Peterson.
All right. So that's the Rotary Club of Shanghai. That's the oldest one, I believe. So got one.
How big a club was it, Jay? Do you know how many people?
30, 40 people or so.
Uh-huh. Are they well engaged in Rotary?
Yeah. Pretty well engaged. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jay.
No, next time I visit, I'll bring it.
And speaking of traveling, Barbara is going to be gone till the first week of July?
I'm back the 29th, so if I can drive after I fly in, I'll be at the
All right. Okay. All right. Then one last announcement. One last announcement is from Tripp.
Changing of the guard, the 29th. Check your emails. Please start to think about RSVP. And I know this is a club that doesn't do much on RSVP. Please help me by RSVP. I'll resend a reminder in case you've already forgotten, but please RSVP one way or another.
All right. Deborah, are you going to do Happy Bucks today? Oh, wait, before we do Happy Bucks, let's get our presentation from our Littleton group here. So, Delay, if you could come up here and...
Well, I'm not going to let you hold this against her that she's a good friend of mine. Dee Lay. Dee Lay is a member of the Littleton Rotary Club. Her and I served on the district membership committee for 3 years, and she has a guest today, Rose, who represents an organization that has to do with maternity and child, which is an area of focus our club hasn't done a lot with. So without further ado, Dee.
Okay. So we don't go over. Hello, as Mark said, I'm with the Rotary Club of Littleton. I'm pleased to be here, and our focus on our project today is helping mothers survive, and it's an initiative with Centura Health. And I'm just going to do a brief introduction to Rose. Besides knowing Rosie for 28 years by profession, Rose Danaher is a neonatal practitioner nurse for 35 years, 24 years of it with Centura. And I'm going to give you a list of all the projects she's been involved with to make her a consummate project leader for this project in Iquitos, Peru, where there is a Rotary Club that we've already been in contact with. Rosie's background is with helping babies survive, and we're now doing the Helping Mothers Survive, Colorado University Global Health Center. She's also associated with the Global Health Initiative, volunteer since 2012, master trainer, implementation of helping Babies Survive program with partners in Loreto, Peru that we had talked about, and Nepal, Haiti, and we're currently on the Helping Mothers Survive launch program, and she is going to go into great detail for 8 minutes. Thank you, Rosie. Oh, you have the lavalier.
Thank you so much for having me. I can tell this is a fun club. Beer, parties, margaritas, guitars.
PowerPoint.
So I was asked about a year ago to make a proposal from the health authorities in Loreto, Peru, because of their high maternal mortality rate. This gentleman I met in February, and he had used one of these interventions to stop a woman from hemorrhaging that he heard about from another technical, which is basically a EMT out in the middle of the jungle. But he really would like the hands-on training to know how to stop maternal hemorrhage. Our project, the goal of it is to improve the quality of care the day of birth for mothers and newborns by equipping the birth attendants with the skills they need to save mothers and babies and to improve their care. The area that we're focusing on is Loreto, Peru. It is a province within Peru. It is about the size of Montana, with roughly just slightly under the same population as Montana. Loreto, Peru is in the Amazon basin. Half of the population lives in a rural area, the other half in the city of Iquitos. You can only get to Loreto by boat or by plane. Most of the people who live in the rural areas, their only form of transportation to get into a city if they need health care is by boat. More than half of the people live below the poverty line. The lowest density of healthcare workers in Peru, almost 11 per 10,000. In Colorado, we have about 10 nurses per 1,000 of population, so you can see what a big disparity. This nearly 11, includes very low-level healthcare workers up through doctors. A little over a third of births happen at home. You know, in my household, my family has been shocked by the 6 deaths in one day on Mount Everest. 830 women worldwide die every day from pregnancy or birth complications. Almost 99% occur in developing countries or underdeveloped countries. Most of them, women, are from poor communities. Many teenagers die from pregnancy risk. Over 300,000 women died in 2015. And most of those could have been prevented. The maternal mortality rate in Peru is 68 per 100,000. 8 of those provinces carry the majority of those births. 5 minutes? Okay. Oh, wow. Sorry about that. In Laredo itself, it's 149 per 1,000. Here in the U.S., it's 14. The lowest, and that's considered high in a developed country. In Peru, last year, or in Laredo, they had 26 maternal deaths out of their slightly over 15,000 births. Already this year, they've had 8. So their maternal mortality rate in 2018 is equivalent of 169 per 100,000. So very high for Laredo. This initiative is very much one of Rotary's focus areas of improving maternal and child health. If a mother dies at birth, chances are in these countries the baby's going to also die. Leading cause of maternal death in Peru is hemorrhage. So this initiative is helping mothers survive bleeding after birth. It is a train the trainer program developed by an affiliate of Johns Hopkins University. It has been field tested in Uganda and Tanzania. There's several partners that have gone into developing this package, including Susan Niermeyer here in CU. This is a train the trainer program geared towards all healthcare providers who attend birth, from midwives to doctors to technicos, which are basically a nurse aide. It's designed very interactive. We know that simulation and repeated simulation has a lot more efficacy in retaining skills. Even here in the US, a lot more of our hospital-based training now is going to simulation. Here's an example of helping babies breathe. This program is also fun. They don't need the beer and wine, but a lot of role playing goes into this program. We focus on communication and teamwork, as well as management of third stage of labor, which is right when the baby's born and afterwards. It goes into higher level skills that probably a lot of people don't have in Aikidos. And it's not just, like I said, lecture form. It's actually practicing on a mannequin, learning in pairs. The purple anti-shock garments in Laredo, Peru were just distributed recently, but no education behind it by their own local health authorities. So they're very excited to actually get some education. This entire package is a 2-day course followed by skills practice throughout several weeks to make the skills stick. It's all packaged in respectful maternal care training. We take for granted in the US that when we are sick or ill that we get kind care. Well, we've been educated that, and there was big shifts in our country in the probably 1960s to start talking to the patients instead of just delivering the care. A lot of these healthcare workers have never even had that modeled. So that's actually also a barrier to healthcare because patients don't want to walk into environments where they're not cared for. So every step of this, we have communication skills built into it. this is just a brief outline. We train champions, we train trainers, we train master trainers who will then train more trainers and build capacity within Laredo. So we're actually doing the training for just a short time till we build the master trainers and support them to be competent. A key to success in sustaining any project is monitoring and evaluation. There's a lot of programs out there where people go in, do the job, leave, and you have no follow-up. High-level requirement. The one I want to point out is community leadership. To sustain a program, we need more than just the hospitals, clinics, and the non-governmental organizations. And that's where Rotary is going to fit into this project well. And this is our first project in Laredo where we're building that relationship from the ground up. And wow, 10 minutes goes fast. So there's a lot I didn't. Okay.
Quick question. With those other 2 locations that you've already tried this out in, I assume that you've seen an improvement of survival rate.
So we have, this is our first Helping Mothers Survive. We rolled out Helping Babies Breathe, which has a long-term, worldwide, but there's a lot more of that. And the districts that have reported back their reduced neonatal, newborn mortality at birth by 50%. So it'll take a while to measure the success of this. It'll be easier to measure the skills and the actual mortality. Babies die at a lot higher rate than mothers.
Okay, any other questions? Well, thank you very much. Okay, happy butts, Deborah. Where'd she go?
Deborah is missing.
All right, does somebody want to step in for Deborah?
Okay, what am I supposed to do?
Collect money.
What am I supposed to do with this? Happy bucks. Okay. Where's the?
Right behind you, behind you.
I was going to say, we need the thing. Okay.
I've got one. Just got back from vacation in Indy. Great race. We had a ball.
That's good. Continuing on.
Thanks to Randy for stepping up and saying he would give the program today. We really enjoy when people volunteer to do that, so this month we're going to have a couple of those. And welcome to our guests. We hope you come back and stay with us.
Absolutely. We'll go on.
Thanks to our guests for being here.
All right. Anyone at this table? Here we go.
I'm happy because all my plants survived the hailstorm.
Good.
Just looking forward to Randy's presentation.
Happy it's Tuesday and I'm at Rotary.
Absolutely.
This is the saddest picture.
I have $5. I'm leaving Sunday. I'm going to visit 5 countries, so $1 for each country, and I'll be back on the day we have the changing of the guard.
I've talked about my granddaughter's soccer before. She's 10. She played in a tournament this weekend for Real Nacional, or last weekend. Played against 12-year-olds. They won the tournament 4-1.
All right.
Hi, I'm happy I got here on time. The Rotary Club of Littleton meets at 12 noon, and then we also have a meeting option in the evening at 6:30. So this was a challenge, and I'm really happy I got here punctually.
You don't count anymore. This is. Go sit down.
I have three. One is for my friend Dee and her guest Rose. Great program, and I'll be presenting a funding request at the next meeting. Also, my friend Ralph came in late, I guess, with his guest. So good to see you. And the third one's for Randy. I'm looking forward to your speech.
And I have, you got, okay.
Yeah. It's just a buck for that table back there who didn't, dollar for the table back there who couldn't splurge $1. That's the $4.
Oh, hi, Deborah. Would you have a happy
and I have two, one for our guests and one for Barb. Safe travels.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May I present Deborah Jessup?
I'm giving a happy 5. It's always nice to see our guests here. I've known her for, seems like forever, long time. And have gone over to the Littleton Club and, excuse me, done presentations. I'm also really happy because as of today, I have a new yard, all new sod and everything at my house, which is, since we've lived there for almost 20 years, it's about darn time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Give that to Barbara.
I'm a master gardener. I resent that.
And with that, a man that needs no introduction, Randy Pye.
Well, I was thinking about this presentation, and interestingly enough, I've given presentations about the city of Centennial, about, regionalism, and a number of things in 54 different areas here in the country that I've been invited to speak at. And I recognized when I stepped up to say I was going to do this, I've never given this presentation. This is one presentation because of the close-knitness of it, that if you are outside this region, you don't get it. And so this will be interesting to see how this goes. Well, first I need to say a big thank you to my wife, Susan, who is really an informal historian for the city of Centennial. She has a ton of different pictures that she took and all that good stuff, and newspaper clippings and everything else. So I had a lot to work with, luckily, that refreshed my memory. Needless to say, it's the creation of a city. It is the road to the largest incorporation in U.S. history. We found that out as a group about 2 weeks before the election. And we got together because there was a concern that if we actually published that everybody would be, wow, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing it if nobody else has done it, this large an incorporation. We decided not to publish it. We let it be known shortly after the election. You think about cities like New York and Boston and the ones back east, why wouldn't they be the largest incorporation? In actuality, they were burbs already that didn't have to go through the incorporation process. So that's the reason we are the largest incorporation, still are, as of today. So what happened? Why did we decide that this was something we needed to do? Greenwood Village, which I will say some things about Greenwood Village, and I will tell you also they are our great partners. Centennial has partnered with them on a number of things. We love Greenwood Village. There may be a couple of people over there we don't love, but there was a concern. And if you'll notice the last bullet point here, they were the enemy. This could not have happened unless you had an enemy. I have done or consulted with 4 other incorporations, and I've talked all 4 of them out because, number one, either they didn't have an enemy or they didn't have a tax base. So you have to have an enemy to do this. Anyway, Greenwood Village, John Brackney, who was a commissioner at the time, happened to be over at Greenwood Village's office and saw a map And it was an annexation map, but it was a little bit different than the normal annexation map that we have to provide every year as a city. And it looked like they were going to come straight down University, pick up South Glen Mall. They were going to go down to County Line, straight across County Line, pick up all the commercial tax base there, come back up Arapahoe Road, or no, excuse me, it was Arapahoe Road, or to Arapahoe Road, pick up all the tax base there, go out to Dove Valley, pick up all the tax base there, and not take any residents in. That was their plan. So that was going to be a concern for anybody who lived here in the region, because we would have had to raise our property taxes in order to pay for our services that we would have been getting from the county if they had taken all of that commercial tax out of the area. The Greenwood Village annexation leaders were Mayor David Pfeiffer. Dave and I buried the hatchet the day after the election. I suggested where he could bury it. Councilman Jim and actually Dave and I are friends now. We see each other periodically. Councilman Jim Underhill, who I do not see, and council member, and that was supposed to be Doug Morris. And I realized I wrote it down as Dick Morris, but it was Doug Morris.
It's so funny.
I knew he was something or other. So where did this idea come about? John Brackney called 4 others of us and said, would you be willing to come together, and I've got something I need to tell you. And so we got together for breakfast at the Pancake House. That's the original Pancake House over on University, July 8th. And you keep that date in mind, it'll help you as we go through this. And these are 4 of the troublemakers that showed up that day. One of them, Brian Vogt, on the far, on your left, the taller of the group, was president of the South Metro Denver Chamber. There was a reason that John called all of us together. He had a point for doing this. John Brackney in the middle, he's the county commissioner. The short guy is Ed Bozier. He was then the assessor for Arapahoe County. The guy without hair, I had hair when I was doing this. I started when I was 44 when we started the incorporation effort. But that was me. And the last one I want to call out is Pete Ross. And I call him out separately for a reason. After we got started on this whole process, about 4 months into it, he discovered he had cancer. And Pete got us all the way through. His leadership and everything else got us all the way through the incorporation effort, all the way to the night of the party that we had here, and he died about 2 months later. He told me at one point the one thing he wanted to do was see the incorporation through. It was so important for him, and he made it. And I'll show that picture here in just a moment or two. So, in the discussion that we had at the Pancake House, we spent about 2.5, almost 3 hours discussing what could we do to stop this, or what could we do to block Greenwood Village. First thing we came up with, let's go to Greenwood Village and say, hey, look, if you're going to do this, take all of us citizens also. Which, incidentally, I had a very interesting discussion with Mayor Pfeiffer when I did that. He suggested that he didn't want those people in his city. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but David used a number of words during our campaign that caused a little bit of an issue. So what we decided we needed to do is we needed to go out and find out, number one, is if it could be done, how would we do it? So we went out and we talked to a lot of people. Just 4 or 5 of us went out and did this. One of the reasons that I was part of the group is because I was head of then ACCORD, which was the Arapahoe County Council for Organized Responsible Development. It's 57 homeowners associations in the area, all of unincorporated. And we met monthly to discuss what was going on in the region, and we were a referral agency back to the county and things like that. John Brackney, because of his political will, he was very well known here as a commissioner. Brian, because he knew all of the business community as a South Metro Denver Chamber. Ed Bozier, who I should have said all this before, but Ed Bozier, why we needed him was really for the tax base. Did we have the kind of tax base that was going to be necessary for us to do this? And Pete Ross is the one who stepped down from Accord and suggested, and this is before he knew he was sick, suggested that I become president of Accord. And so he had the same kind of relationships I did. So we talked to a lot of people, as you can see. And the five of us would meet weekly over at the South Metro Denver Chamber and try to get an idea of whether we thought this could be done. And we finally came to the conclusion we thought it could be done. And we had a really smart person come up to us and say, hey, before you five decide you want to do this, I'd suggest you go talk to the community. Very smart person. So we decided to do that on August 20th. We had passed out some flyers ahead of time just in the area. And we thought maybe a couple hundred people would show up at Arapahoe High School that night. We had over 1,000 people show up. We had to call the sheriff, get him to come out and do crowd control, also traffic control. Everybody walked into that meeting like this, arms crossed, staring at us like, why are you disturbing our way of life? So we thought we were going to have kind of a hassle on our hands. People were sitting in the aisles because there's not that much room in that auditorium. People were sitting in the aisles and standing, and it was amazing to have 1,000 people. 7 presenters, and then they had decided that I should be the last one to present because I had created some kind of vision for what I thought the city could be. And so there's an interesting piece here I just wanted to mention to you because I was that last presenter. Arapahoe High School had just redone their audio equipment, and they had gotten pencil microphones, which is no longer used anywhere because of this simple issue. At the top of a pencil microphone sits basically a knob. And when I got up to speak, the pencil microphone kept doing this. Kept falling down, so I'd lift it back up. Kept falling down. I finally grabbed it and held on to it. The only problem was I had never spoken in front of 1,000 people before, and I was nervous as heck. I mean, I'd spoken in front of 200-300 people, but 1,000 people that were giving me kind of the look like, we're going to lynch you right after this. So Susan, my wife, who was sitting in the second row, she said you really couldn't see it, but she could see my knees shaking. Because we were using one of the band stands. So I was very nervous. But anyway, the reason that I came up with this vision is I had been with David Osborne, who created the book that you see here, Reinventing Government. I had been at one of his conferences, and he struck a chord to me that we could really do government better than what we currently do. And so I called David and talked to him, and he suggested I call Martin O'Malley, who at that point was the mayor of Baltimore, because Martin O'Malley was doing some of the same work that he thought we should be doing in government. And Martin O'Malley gave me some great advice. Martin's gone on to do other things as far as a governor and a few other things. But basically the presentation I gave was we can develop a city based off of what we currently have in the area. All of our special districts that we have here, we don't have to recreate the library district, we don't have to recreate the park districts, we don't have to recreate the sheriff, we don't have to do any of that. So when I got finished with the presentation, interestingly enough, we got a huge round of applause. I don't think it was for me because the other presenters were just as good as I was. And they suggested we go forward. Well, okay. How do we make it happen then? We just got a mandate. This happened a lot in the city where we said, yeah, let's do it. It's a great idea. And somebody says, yeah, go do it. And we go, oh, well, how do you do it? Yeah, and that's kind of where we were. So on August 31st, we got together with South Metro Denver Chamber and we formed what was called ACSD, which is the Arapahoe Citizens for Self-Determination. Everybody talks about the fact that there were 5 of us, and there were 5 founders. But we didn't do this ourselves. We actually had 45 members who were involved at this point. This was just our committees to make this work. We began to finalize the map. We had decided we were going to take the boundaries of the city out to either I-25 or all the way out to Parker. We weren't sure which. And we had some folks come from the far east side and said, look, if you leave us out of this, we're going to be taken by Aurora, and we don't want to be Aurora. So, take us as well. Well, that was, okay, that sounded like a pretty good idea. It did become a problem here in just a few minutes, but we chose the name. So we finalized the map, but we chose the name, which was a Centennial. We did that basically because of the Centennial State. And also there were a number of things named Centennial down here already, the Centennial Airport. So we decided Centennial would be a great name to start with. It could always be changed. We realized that this was going to be a true campaign. And all of us were familiar with campaigns, all of us that were involved. So needless to say, we created a campaign plan. I went out to the bathroom, came back, and geez, they elected me president while I was gone. I did that a lot. I think I left once when I went to the bathroom, and they came back and said, we're running you for mayor. I was, what is it when I go to the bathroom? You guys do this to me. We created this executive committee, leadership committee, and outreach committee. We had a lot of people doing a lot of different things, but the one that was the most important to me was the outreach committee to the communities. We actually created precinct leaders. We had people in every community actually going to be operating for us, and that was part of our group. Now, I went home and told Susan about this, and she said, well, how long do you think this is going to take you? And I said, oh, yeah, 3, 4, 5 months maybe. So, knowing how optimistic I am, she bought rose-colored glasses for myself and for Brian Boat, which we still have today, because that's how we kind of see the world. We see it through rose-colored glasses. We thought we could get it done pretty quickly. But we didn't think about one thing that was going to happen, and that was Greenwood Village wasn't going to just let us do this. And we kind of forgotten about them. So we had a number of things. October 14th, that was the beginning of the true fight. That was when Greenwood Village announced their annexation plans. Now, you can do an annexation without going to court. You cannot do an incorporation without going to court. So the annexation was announced then. We had finalized our map. We had gotten our petition put together. 2,347 signatures. We needed 150. It occurred in 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon. People waited an hour and a half to sign that petition. It was amazing. That was my leaders in the neighborhood. They were out there talking to people, and they told the people, we got to get this done or we're kind of left out. That was great. We did a little petition rally at the Justice Center, turned the petitions in on November 16th. Now, on November 22nd, I knew we were in for a fight when the Denver Rocky Mountain News came out on that Sunday with this picture. And there's myself, John Brackney, Pete Webb, who was our PR guy, David Pfeiffer, Jim Underhill, and Doug Morris, all standing out Dove Valley, and made the front page. That was a quick wake-up call. And it was talking about the fight that was beginning to happen. Another Dave Pfeiffer issue. When we were standing out there, he turned and he looked at all of Dove Valley and he said, someday this will all be mine. It was good to have David Pfeiffer as the enemy. November 23rd and 24th, we had the district court hearings. Judge Leopold, who heard our hearings 3 different times, we at one point thought he actually was being paid off by Greenwood Village. I hate to say that about a judge. He became a good friend also. He swore me in twice as mayor. But on December 2nd, he ruled against us on our petition on technical grounds on our map. And on the 12th of December, we did the exact same thing with revised maps. And we had 2,600 people show up and got new signatures, and we continued on. I have to get through this. Community outreach campaign, this was the whole thing. I mean, in my belief, this was what made Centennial what it is. September 21st was the first of our 100 town hall meetings. We did 100 of them. Actually, we did 99. The last one was the day of the election, and we held that here. A couple things I want to point out is you'll see the bottom picture. That's John Brackney doing a presentation, and you'll notice I'm scowling and standing about 12 feet away from him. Well, I had found out, and I had forgotten this, John is a libertarian. He didn't think we would have to do this with taxes, and he actually said that. I quickly walked across and grabbed him and said, "Do not listen to this man," and escorted him off the stage and came back and we talked about taxes. John, this was ongoing because John would come and present and I would stand 12 feet away from him and stare at him, and it became a kind of a deal between he and I. He'd know because he'd look at me and then he'd go, "We really don't need taxes." And I'd be walking across the stage, grab him, take him away. We had about an average of 100 people at every one of our town hall meetings. Some were a little smaller, some were a little larger. This is on the far left, up top, is our town hall group. So these are the folks that would get out, get it set up, and do all the good stuff. John and I and Brian were the three major presenters. But we basically, as you can see, just had a really great turnout on all of those. Part of what we told our volunteers was be everywhere all the time. Parades, debates were all mine. I did all our debates. We did phone banks. We did 4 nights a week of phone banks, calling people in the area, telling them about Centennial. Parades, if we could find a parade, any parade, neighborhood parade, Western Welcome Week, which is what you see off to the in the picture. That was great. In fact, we probably had 400 people show up for that parade, all with Centennial banners and signs waving, and all of us had shirts, the whole thing. We did great literature, we had signs, we had grocery stores. Many of you, if you were here, probably went to a King Soopers sometime during this period of time and you were stopped on a Saturday or a Sunday by people wanting to talk to you about Centennial at grocery stores. Sue Rosser, who is a force unto herself, created the grocery store team. And I will swear, if it hadn't been for the grocery store team, I don't know what we would have done. So the grocery store team, let me see, that's up at the top right. We had phone banks. We had people out waving signs. Just periodically, somebody would pick up a sign and go wave it. We had people walking to doors, Centennial volunteers. We had the parades, as I mentioned. We had 3 major victories during this period of time because Greenwood Village still wasn't going away. As a matter of fact, the more we did, the more they got out there. We realized that in order for us to get the incorporation to happen based on state law, is that we had to change state law so that it would trump an annexation. So there's a competing annexation and incorporation. Under state law at that time, the annexation would have gone first. We need to change the priority. So we had a number of political operatives that worked for us, and we basically went down to the State House and we had volunteers that go to the State House. I am a force of might was the t-shirt that they wore, and every day they would stick a new color of paper talking about Centennial in all of the representatives' mailboxes and all the senators' mailboxes. And then they'd stand out in the hallway and they'd talk to every senator and every house or every representative that would walk down the hallway. They'd grab them, and there'd be 4 or 5 of them. They'd stand there and talk to them. It was pretty amazing. But we did change state law. It passed the House in 3 days, unheard of, unanimously. Went to the Senate, passed in 4 days. We had 1 no vote. That no vote is a person out of Lakewood who was friends with a former mayor of Greenwood Village. And she was the only one we couldn't flip that vote. She was not going to do it because she owed Frida Poundstone. You remember the Poundstone Amendment? That was the lady who was in Greenwood Village. Anyway. You know, by this time, the governor had put Greenwood Village on the bad growth map. They were talked about as being arrogant. things have changed in Greenwood Village, which is kind of nice. But anyway, we then went to back to district court, and we actually had a ruling in favor. So we were all a little bit shocked that Judge Leopold decided to rule in our favor. And it was based on 1099, the bill that we had passed. Priority was to us. Greenwood Village decided to appeal that to the appeals court. So the appeals court got it. They pushed it immediately up to the Supreme Court. And we were in the Supreme Court for about 4 months, came out with a 7-0 vote from the Supreme Court to move ahead, and they gave us the date of the election. They said, don't mess with this anymore. Go make this happen. Coming from a Supreme Court justice, you hear that, and you go, wow, everybody likes this. We're in great shape. The two gentlemen that you see there were our attorneys. Bob Cole, who was on the far side, far right side, he actually impeached the Greenwood Village attorney at the Supreme Court, which of course made the 7-0 vote a lot easier for the Supreme Court. But it was just absolutely amazing what he was able to do. September 12th, 2000. Remember, we started 1998, July 8th. We finally are going to get to the vote September 12th, 2000. Well, that morning of the vote, we had 1,000 yard signs that were put out throughout the city. Overnight, our folks had gotten out and put out the yard signs. We had folks on street corners. Everybody get out and vote, all this stuff. Our folks, we had over 1,000 volunteers at that point. That was the guesstimate. I think it was more than that, but we always say that we had at least 1,000. As you can see, we had done precincts, polling places. This one vote sign at the top that you see, it had been there for, gosh, I can't tell you how many months. And he still puts out signs, interestingly enough, not necessarily about Centennial anymore, but he just puts out signs in general. And he had gone out that morning and wrote in vote. We did 100,000 pieces of literature the week before the vote to the citizens as to why they should come and vote for us. Mail-in ballot, of course you could just go and vote in the precinct place. I think the attorney was talking to me up top. That's my daughter off to the side. I think he said to me at one point, so what's going to happen if we lose? Which is why I kind of laughed. There was one thing that they didn't know. We had already kind of guesstimated what the mail-in ballots, when we saw how many there were, that we probably had this one. But we weren't sure. This was part of the party. This entire area used to have no walls whatsoever, and we had the party here. Governor showed up. I think there he was saying, I signed that bill, you all better win. I just smiled. And actually the governor happened to live in Centennial, or what was to become Centennial. So he was really excited about making this happen. He never said anything about that until after the election. We had band. Susan's over there. She loves the band. She actually started dancing, which got everybody else dancing. Needless to say, we had a tally board, which I'm going to show you next. And as the precincts would call in with the election, Brian would get up there and he would write in how many votes in favor, how many votes against, and what the percentage was. At the end, when we finally realized that we had the election, I got up there, which is what I'm doing right there, is we had the election won, and I made that announcement. You wouldn't believe the excitement and what broke out here in this room. That is the gentleman I spoke about before, Mr. Ross. We had a banner up there. We had to help him up on stage because we had 5 pulls. And we were going to pull that, and then down would come welcome to Centennial, Colorado. And that was the end. That was it. We were a city. We were a city that now had to go do a whole lot of stuff. but we were a city as of that night. And a lot of folks, and for my Littleton folks here, everybody always asks, why did we take part of Littleton and make that Centennial? We never took Littleton. There's unincorporated parts of the county that are named Littleton and Englewood. If you ever watch the Denver Business Journal, you would think Englewood is maybe bigger than downtown Denver, and they have much more commercial. They don't. It's because that's the post office box that you have to use based on unincorporated county. So we never took anything from Littleton. As a matter of fact, we talked to Littleton, and they were such a great community and helped us a lot. So did Lone Tree, helped us a lot. But that was the end of the story for this. Where it goes from that point forward was 3 years, after I was elected mayor, 3 years of the toughest 3 years I'd ever had. Because of the financial implications, getting the services set up, finding the right people. I often call Centennial the city of miracles because the right people always showed up at the right time. We needed a city manager. I got a call from over in Grand Junction, a city manager over there, and said, hey, how about I drive over for 4 days out of the week, and I'll drive back every weekend, and I'll be your city manager until you find one. So those are the kind of people that always stepped up. Even our law team, they did it pro bono. They had $200,000 worth of bills when they got finished, but they did it pro bono. There was almost everybody did it pro bono. I think Farnsworth, which is our mapping company, is the only one that charges anything, and they had to, and they charged us like $20,000. So it was amazing because everybody fell in love with this city, and I think they still fall in love with this city. That's it.
We have 5 minutes for questions.
Any questions? Mark.
Tell us a little bit about, very few cities in the country are in the black.
Mm-hmm.
You started some type of strategy in regards to spending, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Our whole process, or our whole thought process was to always have a government that was a small government. We only have 60 employees that are direct employees over at the city. When we went through the downturn, we didn't lay anybody off. Our contractors did, and that was the idea for a contract city. The other thing that we did is we recognized in the first 3 years, we had such money troubles. There was one question at one point that we were not going to be able to provide law enforcement services. And I had to do I had to be on TV on a Sunday morning out in front of the city building to ensure the residents that we were providing services. But there was a lot going on. And we had a great city manager who stepped up after the city manager that came in to me, and the first day he met me, he said, Mayor, here's what we're going to do. He says, all expenditures have to go through me from now on. Nothing happens in this city unless I see it first. And we're going to cut all expenditures by 50%. Including the ones that you already have budgeted. That's the kind of person we had. We now have a general fund that is up in the $80 million range. And all of it, I think, is because of what we created as the city. We recognized that we were going to be a frugal city. So I think that's what it was, Mark. Yeah, John.
You mentioned some complications on bringing the communities to the east of Parker. You mentioned some complications about bringing in the areas east of Parker Road into the city, which was a bit of an afterthought. Can you talk about that?
Yes. The issue was, how do you get across Parker Road? Because to annex across Parker Road or to take those folks, there was no connection. We had no way of getting there. As a matter of fact, getting up almost to Parker Road, we had no way to get to Parker Road. We reached out to a family by the name of Fetters, which have a farm over on Parker Road. And we called them and said, would you be willing to give us an easement across your land so that we could reach Parker Road and then we could annex across? And I can remember the day distinctly. That night, it was a driving rainstorm. It was nuts. I mean, it was hailing and everything else. They called a family meeting. That's the family, their family. And they called us about 8 o'clock and said, yeah, we're going to give you a 12-foot easement. One caveat. We get to hunt on it forever. We weren't a city. Sure. We'll let you hunt on it as long as you want to. The Fetters were a great family. They really were. They were one of the first ones here. You can still find their farming implements down at the dam at Cherry Creek when it was flooded, because they owned most of the property through this area. So that was the problem that we had, and we worked a couple weeks trying to figure out how to make that happen. And the Fetters came through at the last minute. So that was it. Yes. Yes, sir.
I'm sure you can go on forever and ever about this, but now you have your city, you're going to have to hire people. I guess I'm wondering a Reader's Digest version of the funding, how you got the dollars to put this thing together to go from to get to first base.
Yep. And this will have to be the last question because it's going to go for just a few minutes. First of all, a city, when you incorporate a city, the county you're in, this is under state law, has to provide services for the first year. So the county had to provide services to us. And that helped a great deal because we had to do our Tabor election. We had to set our sales tax rate. We had to set our mill levy rate. Well, that couldn't happen until November. Well, we formed in September, so we couldn't have that election until we seated a council and a mayor and set our tax rate, which we did the following year on a special meeting. But that's when we started receiving funds. Problem was the state was our collections. So Littleton got a lot of our funds because it was still a Littleton address. Inglewood got a lot of our funds because it was Inglewood. Strangely enough, Greenwood Village, we were getting half of what we had anticipated. And that was what caused us the greatest problem. We finally hired a firm that came in and registered every business in the city area and also licensed them for sales tax. All of a sudden, we started getting all of our sales tax that we needed. But there was 3 years, I will tell you, that we were on a shoestring. We were lucky. We actually had South Suburban loan us $70,000. We had the county give us $100,000 from deferred maintenance that they weren't going to do on our roads. It was $100,000, so they gave us that. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I was when they gave us $100,000. And, you know, the budget for us now is $65 million, so it's gone up just a little bit. So, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir, and you know that your duties are not done yet.
That's it.
Could we do the blue marble drawing?
Don't worry, I didn't say my one. So. 030.
All right.
Boy, happy buck.
She doesn't feel so bad now.
What I see there, blue marble in there. That's your eye. Not that one. No. One more.
Ah, what a shame.
Well,
better luck next time. Okay, just a quick reminder. If you forgot to bring your polio pig, we're picking them up again today. But if you did bring your polio pig last week and it's empty sitting over here, please collect it and start contributing to it again. And also there will be a board meeting next week, next Wednesday. All right. With that, please stand and join me in the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Go out and have a great week.